Thank you for taking the time to watch this video on what a lot of people are doing in the area to get neck pain relief. My name is Dr. James Petrick. I'm a chiropractor in the area, and I've been helping people in Southern California as well as the Savage and Prior Lake area now for the past 20 years get incredible neck and back pain relief. Now, most people unfortunately cannot appreciate how debilitating neck pain can actually be. They think it might just be a physical problem. But if you sitting there right now are suffering with neck pain, you know how it can spill over into your work life, into your home life, your social life, the connection between you and the most important things in life. Because let's face it, as your spinal health goes downward, so too can your ambitions. Unfortunately, there's no single one magic bullet that's going to clear everybody out across the board. But I will say that the ones that do succeed have succeeded by following the basic principles that we're going to be talking about right now. I really feel the best doctor is the one that really helps them to get the best result with the fewest dollars spent, with the most or the least invasiveness, that is getting to the cause, whether it is specific or kind of general, if it's multi-layered or if it's complex or if it's somewhat simple. And we love to give you the tools to figure out how to ascertain how to best approach causes of health problems in your own life, so that you can better then put other causes out in order to get a different result. When you have better neck function, you're going to have better vagus nerve flow. There's a little nerve on both sides of the upper neck that flows down into every major organ of your body up to the first part of your large intestine. So especially in cases where there's a lot of rotation of that top vertebra in the spine, known as the C1, it can put direct pressure on the vagus nerves. Okay, vagus in Greek means wandering. And what that means is that this nerve kind of goes and it snakes through and it wanders to every major organ up to the first part of the large intestine. So just imagine how important it is that we keep that neck area free of interference so that we can have optimal digestion, because it's known that that vagus nerve regulates the pH in the stomach, which is the first part of breaking down your food, along with everything else that's happening down here, is regulated by that vagus nerve. So digestion is a thing that a lot of people would have improvement with when they get neck pain relief here, unlike how a medication necessarily could. A medication might help you get out of neck pain. It's probably not going to optimize your digestion. So everybody loves the side benefits here. And following the other principles talked about in this presentation, there's really no reason for you to not have hope. So get your hopes up. You got a lot going in your favor with mental clarity issues, with sleep and energy issues, stress handling issues, and even stiffness and mobility and postural problems. Oftentimes a person will also have a history of concussion or whiplash, and therefore ringing in the ears, vertigo or a loss of balance, sometimes nerve pain shooting into the face, maybe jaw alignment issues as well can be related to an imbalance in the upper neck. Because here's the anatomy. You have 55 bones in your head and your neck, your mid-back, all the way down to your lower back and pelvis that protect the central nervous system, your brain and your spinal cord. Now you got 33 bones in your spine if you include the little ones down here in the sacrum and the coccyx. But basically, all the way at the top, you have this little hole where the brainstem exits the lower brain and then goes down into the spinal cord, and that's called the foramen magnum. And the C1 vertebra, or the atlas vertebra, is situated right beneath foramen magnum. And Atlas from Greek, Atlas was that titan that held the world on his shoulders. But anyhow, that atlas vertebra has a really important job, because not only does it move the most right there, that's about 90% purely atlas rotating on top of axis, top of the second bone. And not only does it have a lot of mobility, but because of the extra mobility, there's less mobility. It's the weakest link in the spine. And not only that, anatomically it's very unusual. There can be all sorts of subtle differences in the shape of the vertebra side to side and the shape of the joints side to side. And that's why we need to have a very, very specific accounting of how to then go in and make for a correction to this imbalance with as little invasiveness as possible. We don't want to ever take the neck and crack it, anything like that. If you have neck pain, I'm sure that's the last thing you want to have happen, is to have your neck twisted really fast. We don't do anything like that here. I don't believe that should even be done. Maybe in rare circumstances, but fundamentally, we're trying to do as little as possible in order to get you the best result possible. When you're dealing with gravity better and your body doesn't have to dissipate the tension from up top so that it affects your posture, just to offset the tension building upward, your body's gonna spread it downward, right? Spine's not a column, it's a tension-based suspensory kind of a structure. And because of that, when it goes out, it doesn't go out like a stack of Jenga blocks. It goes out like something that unravels. And anything that unravels from the ends, right? So in the human body, either the top or the bottom of the spine. And since this area is the most mobile, you can see how this becomes an area of importance in addition to how critical the nerves are up here. If you get a really bad injury up here, you can get paralyzed. If you get a really bad injury down here, you don't get paralyzed. So when the neck is off, everything can go off at that point. And for the neck pain sufferer, this can result in occlusion of the vertebral arteries, so lacking blood flow to the brain, and then from the brain down to the heart, lightheadedness, changes in blood pressure. And when these little atlas and axis vertebrae go out of the proper position, it can also cause issues, of course, with nerve flow. It's usually not an interference or a occlusion or an inhibition of the nerve signal, such as if you were to step on a garden hose and now the water doesn't get out to the grass. It's actually usually more of an over-facilitation, an irritation, such as a garden hose that's just going off like this, and the dog is chasing the sprinkler and it's just sputtering all over the place. So that extra signaling is really what's happening. Your body's struggling to adapt, and it sends extra signal to this part of the cerebellum and the brainstem area. The cerebellum is the integration center of the brain, which then tends to spill over in those key areas that I was discussing: the handling of stress, sleep and energy, your mental focus, as well as posture and mobility. So in addition to blood flow and nerve flow, another thing that could be interfered with as a result of an imbalance in the upper neck is cerebrospinal fluid flow. So you basically have three layers at the outer spinal cord and brainstem and even brain, and this is known as the pia mater, the dura mater, and the arachnoid mater. Basically 3 layers, and what they do is they help to circulate and pump the cerebrospinal fluid, which provides the sugary, necessary glucose and nutrients that the central nervous system needs in order to carry out its functions. If you don't have very good cerebrospinal fluid flow, it could be because of a past injury where the meninges were stretched and deformed due to perhaps one of the 55 bony elements of the skull down into the lower back and pelvis not being quite the correct position because of some past injury, whether it be poor posture sitting at a desk all day, car accidents, sports injuries that never really got fixed. Even when you were 15, 16 years old, there was a small imbalance that was in a really wonky kind of a pattern. Your body, has to try to correct for that, and a lot of times it cannot correct for itself. That's one thing that's unique about the upper neck. Is you see the mid back and the lower back, those joints are kind of tight, they're really secure, right? So my whole spine kind of moves like that in unison. But up here, C1 moves very independent of C2. And when I do this, the skull moves very independent of C1, right? I'm not even using my lower neck yet until I get down to about right here. or right here, or right here, I would start to engage my lower neck. See, so most of that is actually occurring in the top of the neck, which makes the margin of error so small. Small things are large when it includes the upper neck. Now, number one common way of treating neck pain is through medicine. Pain relievers for neck pain are available in oral, topical, and injection methods. Now again, as there is a time and place for medication, what's interesting is that the common side effects of those types of painkillers are issues with sleep as well as mental clarity. And again, those are two of the hidden benefits that people actually seem to have improvements in. So wouldn't it be great to stop the side effects potentially of the medication to get relief with the more natural approach, and then on top of that, see what we're trying to do is we're trying to trend upward and to the right in all aspects of our life until our very last breath. That's really what we believe here at Prior Lake Spinal Care. That's what I try to get everybody to buy into, because again, you live your life through your spine, your central nervous system. I'm very upfront with people. I say that you ought to brush your teeth at least once a month. Even though your teeth are completely replaceable, you cannot replace your spine, and so that's why we recommend getting checked once a month or so, something like that. It just makes sense. There are other consequences to taking pain relievers. For example, Advil has been known to cause confusion, breathing problems, liver problems, sexual side effects, cardiovascular issues. Well, in fact, cardiovascular, they've recommended taking aspirin for several years to help to prevent a cardiac sort of event from happening again. What they won't tell you, though, is that you've actually doubled your odds for having a kidney problem by the time the benefit actually kicks in for the evidence of it being able to potentially help you with your cardiovascular element. So there's that to unpack as well. So you just got to be careful. Again, medication, I'm not against it or anything, but just certainly know that it covers up the problem and it actually allows the underlying cause, assuming there is a physical structural issue to your neck pain. The fact is that if you feel better even though you are not better, then you can do too much and move around and maybe have too much fun. Now you've allowed your problem to get worse because your body was not able to protect against getting worse because of the pain reliever. Now our technique is extremely gentle. Again, we don't do anything like this. My little iPad here is mounted on a little stick. I'm just gonna barely press on it. We only use a little bit more pressure than that when we do our actual work from the top of the neck. And I describe it like this. It's a unique joint. You have different kinds of joints throughout your body. Your head joints don't move very much, for example, but your finger joint is very flexible. There's hardly any friction there. You could, in your sleep, I could do like this to you and you probably wouldn't even wake up. Well, it's the same type of joint up here. There's not hardly any friction whatsoever. So if we know exactly how that lock should go, that key should go into the lock, should be pretty easy to unlock. But with surgery, the failure rate, it's a tough job to go in there and to try to stabilize and get pressure off of which nerves, and you never know how much of a mess is in there until you start doing the surgery. MRI can only tell you so much. But unfortunately, there's a lot of lack of success with spinal surgery, with neck surgery. Imagine getting a surgery and you still feel bad, or you even feel worse, or it didn't even get to the actual structural problem, because again, if your body is dissipating tension from somewhere else, a lot of times the most misaligned area is where your body is compensating for a smaller imbalance, oftentimes higher upstream, in an area that's more important neurologically. And so if it's a really weird kind of misalignment, the body just has to dissipate that tension down here. And now the person has lower back pain, for example, and now they need surgery on that, even though it's a smaller misalignment up top, yet more obviously injurious, because again, many times that lower back degenerative arthritic condition is actually a consequence for something going on higher up above. You have this righting reflex. Your eyes have to come back to level with the horizon so that you're not walking around like this all day, because that would throw off your equilibrium. You get nauseous. And besides, imagine having to take sometimes twice as many painkillers after getting your surgery as part of the recovery process from that alone than what you're taking right now. So again, that's a reason why surgery, not all the time, but surgery sadly often fails with expense thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Yikes, not even including the physical therapy follow-up. But many times they do not address the underlying structural cause. Think about that. Not only does the upper neck have to deal with injury, think about the weight of the head on the neck, whiplash type of an injury, for example. The lower body usually is going to whip forward like this, and then the head lags, and then the chest stops, and then the head keeps on moving forward like this. Your head is about like a 13-pound bowling ball. Imagine going to the bowling alley right now, grab a ball that's pretty heavy. You're going to roll that thing. There's a little bit of a grunt involved there, right? But what about that little 2-ounce atlas vertebra when the head starts shifting off like this? If any of the membranes, the connective tissues, muscles, ligaments, the little delicate vertebrae that move so much, that are so mobile, if that area gets injured at all, the body goes into instant healing mode. Not very efficiently, but it does go into healing mode. Just like if you cut your finger, it's going to bleed, and at some point there'll be a scab and a callus. It'll stop. White blood cells are at work. But the body goes into healing mode. And the best way that the body can sort of try to heal from an injury up top is, again, to deflect, to cause one leg to go shorter when the person's on their back, one leg to get longer, one hip to be higher, one hip to be lower when the person's standing, one shoulder higher and lower, twisting of the body framework. Oftentimes there's a lean to one side. And this progresses, nerves are compromised, structures break down, and functions are limited. And this problem can only be fixed by an upper neck based upper cervical chiropractor. I do the NUCCA method, which stands for National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association, and this has been around since about 1966. There's only a few of us in the entire state, and I'm proud to bring it now back to my home state of Minnesota after having been in California for close to 2 decades. So keep this in mind. If you've had a concussion, more than likely you've had an upper neck injury as well, because it takes a certain amount of G forces to have a concussion, and it only takes about 1/5 of that in order to have an upper neck injury because of the weight of the head on the neck with these very violent acceleration, deceleration kinds of injuries. So if you've had whiplash, if you've had concussion, if you've had an MRI on your brain to diagnose concussion, if you're looking for a second set of eyes to just take a look and get an opinion as to what's going on, and perhaps damage that may have occurred to the brain or accumulated damage, there's ways of measuring that as well. If you're looking for a second opinion, I'd be happy to share with you what I think of your report, or perhaps your son or daughter had some kind of a sports injury and they're having some challenges now as well. And really, the better you can get out in front of any future problems, not only is to the degree of which you can get better here in the short-term world, short-term result, and a lot of times people are feeling really good results in as little as a couple of weeks. Some people right away, but most people it takes a couple of weeks. Imagine what it would be like down the road 10, 20 years from now, looking even better, feeling much better than you do right now, being able to answer people honestly around the holiday times, for example. How you doing, Bob? How you doing, Lucy? And you tell them, oh, I'm great, but inside you're hurting, and you know you're kind of faking it, and you don't want to be the center of attention because you look healthy on the outside. But I tell you, after years of doing this, I know that if your neck is off, it can really destroy your life. I would love a chance. You've heard some of my stories. I want to hear yours. Give us a call or text. You can call or text 952-444-6030. Or if you'd like, go to our online scheduling app, which I'll leave a button for you to do that right up above this or below. You can set up your complimentary consultation that way. or we can even do it over the phone. Thanks for watching.